Phil Spencer is gone. After 38 years at Microsoft, the face of Xbox just walked away. Not during a celebration, not after a triumphant console launch, but right before Xbox 25th anniversary even began. Sarah Bond, the woman positioned as his successor, is also gone. And in their place, a former Core AI executive whose first public promise was that Xbox would not flood its ecosystem with AI slop. That's where this story starts. Because when the new boss of Xbox opens her tenure by promising she won't turn your games into algorithm-generated filler, that tells you exactly what people are afraid of. Asha Sharma didn't rise through Halo. She didn't build her name inside game studios. She came from Microsoft's fastest growing and most profitable division, AI. And she's now in charge of Microsoft's most turbulent one. At the same time, Call of Duty just suffered a brutal year-over-year drop. Xbox has endured layoffs, cancellations, price hikes, and strategy pivots that now sees its own games launching on PlayStation. Yeah, you heard that right. Halo is on PlayStation. It's coming. Did you see? Did you know? Okay. The messaging has shifted from this is the best deal in gaming to we need to be accountable to Microsoft. And buried in all of this is a report that Satya Nadella has more than once considered shutting Xbox down entirely. So this isn't just a leadership change. This feels like a course correction. The question is simple, and it's bigger than one CEO. Is this the moment? Is this the moment Xbox reinvents itself? Or the moment Microsoft finally turns it into something else entirely? The way this happened is what makes it uncomfortable. Big transitions in gaming usually come with a ceremony, a farewell tour, a staged handoff, thank you so much, thanks for the memories. Some sense of continuity. This didn't feel like that. This felt like a Friday afternoon memo drop designed to land quietly before the weekend. I sent an email, and when they read it, I was already in the Philippines. Phil Spencer retires, fair enough. It's the 25th anniversary year. On paper, that's a poetic exit. But if this was a clean celebratory transition, why does it happen before the anniversary momentum even begin? Why now? Why not right after or during even? And then there's Sarah Bond. For 2 years, she was framed as the future of Xbox, president, public-facing, positioned naturally as the successor. And then suddenly, she's just gone. No major spotlight, no unified messaging. In fact, in the official statements announced in the new era, she was barely mentioned at all. That's not succession, that's disruption. And disruption becomes even louder when you look at who replaces them. Asha Sharma didn't climb the Xbox ladder. She wasn't running Xbox Game Studios. She wasn't overseeing hardware. She wasn't embedded in studio culture. She directly comes from Microsoft's AI division, the most strategically protected and aggressively funded part of the company. For a reason. But this is not a neutral move. That is Microsoft genuinely stepping in and placing one of its most trusted product executives into its most turbulent division. Now, to be fair, her resume is serious. Marketing, product engineer at Meta, COO preparing companies for IPO, profit and loss responsibility. She understands scale. She understands efficiency. She understands how to make platforms grow. Okay? This is not a bash. This is a hats off. But here's the tension. Xbox's problem over the last decade hasn't been we don't understand product optimization. It's been identity. Is Xbox a console brand? Is it Game Pass? Is it a publisher? Is it a platform that lives everywhere except its own hardware? That confusion didn't come from lack of engineering talent. It came from strategic pressure. All right? And when you move someone from core AI into Xbox, that doesn't scream continuity to me. That screams alignment, positioning, if you will. Alignment with what Microsoft wants, with what they want to be, with where they want to go. Because let's not pretend this is subtle. Microsoft is an AI-first company right now. Azure, Copilot, enterprise contracts, that's the engine. That's where the margins are. That's their house. That's where they live. And Xbox, compared to that, it's turbulent, volatile, expensive. It's the ugly cousin that no one wants to talk to at dinner. So the question isn't whether Sharma is competent. She absolutely is. The question is whether she was brought in to protect Xbox gaming's soul or to make sure it finally behaves like the rest of Microsoft. Powerhouse. And if you're paying attention, and you usually are, you'll notice this isn't just a leadership shuffle. It feels like oversight, and that changes the stakes immediately. Now, we need to talk about money. Show me the money! Because leadership changes at this level don't happen in a vacuum. They happen when something forces movement. They happen intentionally. And in Xbox case, the pressure point looks painfully obvious. Call of Duty. For years, it was the safest revenue engine in gaming. Reliable, predictable, dominant. And then last year slipped hard, dropping from the best-selling game of the year to fifth. That's not just a ranking shift, that's a revenue shockwave. I mean, year over year, Xbox gaming revenue reportedly took a 9% hit. 9% doesn't sound catastrophic until you understand scale. At Xbox size, that's not a bad quarter. That's hundreds of millions moving in the wrong direction. You get that, right? And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Xbox had already been going through layoffs, studio closures, cancellations, price increases to Game Pass, which was you shoot your own foot that was working. The messaging slowly shifted from the best deal in gaming to sustainable growth and accountability. That language mattered. It matters now. When executives start using words like accountable to Microsoft, that means the leash just got shorter. And according to multiple reports, last year layoffs weren't just about trimming excess. They were about reallocating funding, specifically towards AI initiatives. Think about that for a second. Just chew on it. Gaming divisions cut in teams while the parent company doubles down on AI infrastructure. That's not subtle, that's strategic reprioritization. Now, to be clear, blaming Phil Spencer for Call of Duty sales drop would be simplistic. Development cycles, legacy divisions from Activision leadership, franchise fatigue, those are complex issues. Ones that I'm not even prepared to touch because I don't know enough of it. But corporations don't evaluate nuances first, they evaluate performance. If the largest acquisition in gaming history doesn't immediately strengthen quarterly performance, conversations happen. And internally, those conversations likely sounded like this. Why is Xbox so volatile? Why are margins inconsistent? Why is hardware declining? Why are we subsidizing this when AI margins are exploding? And when those questions start getting asked at the Microsoft board level, leadership protection weakens. This is where the 30% margin target rumors become interesting. Microsoft publicly denied that specific figure, but it keeps resurfacing. And even if the number isn't exact, the direction is clear. Xbox must behave like a disciplined business unit, not a passion project. This is not a hobby. That changes everything because historically, Spencer positioned Xbox as something semi-autonomous, almost culturally separate, a gaming-first group operating inside a tech giant. Sure, cool. But when profits tighten and AI becomes the company's crown jewel, tolerance for turbulence drops. And turbulence is exactly what Xbox has been for a while now. Don't kid yourselves. Here's the uncomfortable line. Xbox isn't being evaluated as a beloved brand anymore. It's being evaluated as a line item. And once that shift happens, well, leadership isn't about vision anymore. It's about correction. Which makes the AI product executives stepping in feel less like coincidence and more like a response. Because when revenue dips and corporate patience thins, the next move is rarely creative, okay? It's structural. But the financial pressure only explains part of this. The deeper issue is identity. Because over the last decade, Xbox hasn't just struggled with revenue swings, it struggled to define what it actually is. At one point, it was the console challenger, the alternative to PlayStation, the biggest fighter there was. then that battle was lost. Phil Spencer even admitted it. We lost the worst generation to lose. Once players were entrenched in Sony's ecosystem, they didn't move, myself included. So Xbox pivoted. It became Game Pass, the best deal in gaming. Day one exclusives, massive value. That strategy worked, okay, until it had to be profitable. Then the prices went up, tiers changed, access shifted, and suddenly the value conversation became a margin conversation. Then Xbox expanded. Again, PC integration, cloud streaming, smart TVs, play anywhere, play anytime. The idea wasn't to win the console war, it was to escape it, expand beyond the box. And now? And now Xbox games are launching on PlayStation. I'll say that again. Xbox games are launching on PlayStation. The brand that once relied on exclusivity as leverage is now distributing its biggest titles to its direct competitors' hardware. For the bottom line, it makes sense. More platforms, more sales, right? But strategically, it erodes the reason to own the hardware at all. If you can play the games on PC or stream them to a TV or even buy them on your PlayStation, why on earth would you buy an Xbox? That is not a troll question. That's just a structural one. And internally, that question creates friction because they're asking that question themselves. Reports suggest that there were skeptics inside Xbox who felt this is an Xbox campaign diluted console focus too much. That marketing push was about ecosystem expansion, not hardware loyalty. That's not just branding, that's philosophy. Console first thinking says protect the box. Platform first thinking says maximize reach. Those are not the same strategy. And when you layer that over declining console sales, rising Game Pass costs, and increased corporate oversight, something becomes obvious. Xbox stopped defending a battlefield and started dissolving it, which is bold, potentially smart, but also dangerous. Because if Xbox is everywhere, it risks being nowhere special. Too much of you, and there's nothing special about you. And this is where you, the kind of person who notices patterns instead of headlines, can see the tension forming. Expansion can look like growth. It can also look like retreat disguised as innovation. If the original promise of Xbox was hardware plus exclusives plus culture, that triangle has been slowly dismantled. Now it's service plus subscription plus accessibility. That's not inherently wrong, but it's different. And when identity shifts this dramatically, leadership shifts usually follow. Okay? So what we're seeing now is just a natural order, which brings us to the real escalation. Because if Xbox isn't a console company anymore, and well, it isn't purely a subscription company, then I want to ask you this. What exactly is Microsoft trying to preserve? Or are they preparing to become something else entirely? Because this isn't the first time Xbox's existence has reportedly been questioned. When Phil Spencer took over in 2014, there were internal conversations about shutting Xbox down entirely back then. He convinced Satya Nadella otherwise. He argued for the business, for the teams, for the long-term value. That's not a small detail. That means Xbox has, at least once, survived because someone inside Microsoft fought for it. And then in 2021, according to reports, Microsoft has denied, by the way, that conversation allegedly surfaced again. Closing Xbox, walking away, reallocating resources elsewhere. It didn't happen, obviously. Instead, Microsoft doubled down and acquired Activision Blizzard in one of the largest deals in gaming history. Go look it up. But here's the tension. My friends, that acquisition only makes sense if Xbox is a long-term pillar, if gaming is strategic, if it's core to Microsoft's future. Now, Fast forward to today. AI is a pillar, Copilot, Azure, and enterprise contracts. That's where the explosive growth is happening. That's where Wall Street's attention lives. That's where the margin story is clean. Xbox, layoffs, cancellations, revenue dips, hardware declines, strategy pivots. From a purely corporate lens, one division is predictable scale. The other is volatile entertainment. So when an AI product executive is placed in charge of Xbox, the question isn't just about culture. Like I said, it's about alignment. If the conversation about shutting Xbox down ever surfaces again, and corporate history tells us these conversations never truly disappears, what will happen this time? Phil Spencer isn't there to defend it. Sarah Bond isn't there to position it. Now it's being run by someone whose background is optimizing platforms, scaling products, driving profitability in tech environments, making the hard choices. Now, that doesn't automatically mean disaster, but it does mean something critical. The emotional argument for Xbox's legacy may no longer be the deciding factor because emotions will be out of the equation. Because the renegade spirit Sharma referenced in her memo, questioning everything, changing what doesn't work, can be interpreted in two very different ways. It can mean bold creative risks, or it can mean ruthless restructuring. And if you zoom out, the pattern becomes clearer. Console relevance declining, games going multi-platform, subscription margins tightening, AI budgets expanding. At some point, Microsoft doesn't ask, how do we win the console war? It asks, does this division justify its opportunity cost? That's the level this is operating on now. And going into the next console generation, that question isn't theoretical, it's strategic. So here's the part that matters the most. And if you have been here this whole video, I appreciate you. Please drop a comment. Let me know what you think of this. Drop me a like, just because you're such a good sport. But this isn't about whether Asha Sharma is good for or bad for Xbox. It's not about whether Phil Spencer should have stayed. And it's not even about whether Game Pass prices went up. It's about leverage. For over a decade, Xbox survived by expanding. When it couldn't win on hardware, it expanded to PC. When console sales slowed, it built Game Pass. When exclusives couldn't carry momentum, it bought studios. And when hardware relevance weakened, it went multi-platform. You see what I'm getting at? Every move they've ever made was expansion. But expansion only works when the parent company believes in the long-term upside. Right now, after my rant, do you think it does? And let me ask you, do you think Microsoft's long-term upside narrative is AI or Xbox? That doesn't automatically mean Xbox is doomed. Gaming is still massive. Recurring revenue through subscription is attractive, and owning franchises like Call of Duty, Halo, Forza, Fable, that's not trivial. For years, Xbox was framed as a cultural brand inside Microsoft, almost a separate identity, a division with heart, with community, with loyalty. Now, it feels like it's being reframed as infrastructure, a distribution layer, a content engine, if you will, a service that plugs into broader strategy. And that's a crossroads. That's the crossroads that we're at, people. If Xbox becomes a service-first ecosystem that lives everywhere, hardware may quietly fade into the background relevance. If margins tighten further, risk tolerance shrinks. If AI integration accelerates, development pipelines change. And none of those shifts would be loud. They would be gradual. I've said it before, I'll say it again, strategic, optimized, generational. The next generation of consoles will tell us everything, not in marketing promises, in allocation, budget, exclusivity, risk appetite. Because if Microsoft truly believes gaming its core, we'll see bold bets, big exclusives that stay exclusive, hardware that feels necessary. If not, we'll see convergence. Services blended, ecosystems flatten, fewer reasons to care which box you own. I would bet for the latter, but Xbox has survived two reported near-death conversations. The third time, if it ever comes, won't be decided by nostalgia. It'll be by numbers, optimization. And the uncomfortable reality is that for the first time in a long time, Xbox isn't being judged on what it means. It's being judged on what it returns. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.